It was supposed to be just another Halloween mukbang livestream. Me, sitting in front of the camera, gorging myself on an array of spooky-themed treats while my viewers watched and chatted. I'd done this 100 times before, but something felt off from the moment I hit go live. The usual flood of comments didn't come. Instead, a single message appeared in the chat: "We're waiting." I shrugged it off and started my intro. Hey guys. Happy Halloween. Tonight we've got a feast of frights to dig into. Who's ready to get spooky? Silence. Not even a single emoji reaction. I cleared my throat and continued, gesturing to the spread before me. First up, we've got some bloody punch. I lifted the glass, but as I brought it to my lips, I noticed something strange. The liquid inside was thick and dark, nothing like the fruit punch I'd prepared earlier. A metallic scent hit my nostrils. My hand trembled, nearly spilling the glass. I set it down quickly, forcing a smile for the camera. Maybe we'll start with something solid instead. I reached for a plate of cookies decorated to look like jack-o'-lanterns. As I picked one up, I could have sworn I saw it blink. I dropped it with a yelp. Sorry folks, just a little jumpy tonight. I laughed nervously, glancing at the chat. Still nothing but that single message: "We're waiting." A chill ran down my spine. Something was very wrong here. I decided to power through. All right, let's try these caramel apples. I bit into one and immediately gagged. It tasted rotten, the flesh mealy and sour. But as I pulled it away from my mouth, it looked perfectly fine. My stomach churned. I needed to end the stream, but when I looked for the stop broadcast button, it was gone. The entire interface had changed, replaced by an archaic-looking video player I didn't recognize. Panic rising, I turned back to the camera. Guys, I'm not feeling so great. I think I need to. The lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness. When they came back on, I gasped. The food in front of me had transformed. Maggots crawled through what had been pasta. The punch glass now overflowed with a viscous red liquid. And the caramel apples, they pulsed like beating hearts. What the hell is going on? I whispered, pushing my chair back from the table. A new message appeared in the chat: "The feast has only just begun." Suddenly, my chair jerked forward, slamming me against the table. Invisible forces pinned my arms in place. I struggled, but couldn't move. "Please," I whimpered, "someone help me." The chat erupted into a frenzy of messages, but they weren't from my usual viewers. Each one was a command: eat, consume, devour. My right hand moved of its own accord, reaching for a wiggling forkful of maggot-infested pasta. I clenched my jaw shut, fighting against the unseen power controlling me. "No!" I screamed, but my mouth opened against my will. The fork drew closer. Just then, a new voice cut through the madness. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once, deep and resonant. "You who have glutted yourselves on the pain of others, who have feasted on misery and gorged on despair, your time has come." The maggots on my fork transformed into writhing tentacles. They wrapped around my wrist, pulling my hand closer to my mouth. I sobbed, unable to look away from the horror before me. "Please," I begged, "I'll delete my channel. I'll never do another mukbang. Just let me go." The voice chuckled, a sound like bones grinding together. "Oh, sweet child. This is so much bigger than you. Your little videos were just the appetizer. Now, the true banquet begins." The tentacles tightened, dragging my hand the last few inches. I screamed as they forced their way past my lips, slithering down my throat. I gagged and choked, my vision blurring with tears. And then, mercifully, I blacked out. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I came to, I was slumped over the table, my face pressed against its sticky surface. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of my computer screen. Groaning, I pushed myself upright. My throat burned, and my stomach felt uncomfortably full. Had it all been a nightmare? I looked at my screen, hoping to see that the stream had ended, that it had all been some kind of sick hallucination. Instead, I saw viewer numbers higher than I'd ever had before. The chat was moving so fast I could barely read it, but the messages I caught made my blood run cold. More. "Keep going. We're still hungry." With trembling hands, I reached for my mouse, desperate to end the broadcast. But as I did, I felt something shift inside me. A squirming sensation, like my insides were rearranging themselves. I doubled over, clutching my stomach. "What's happening to me?" I gasped. The voice from before answered, but this time it came from my own mouth. "The feast is eternal, and now you are the main course." My jaw unhinged, stretching wider than humanly possible. I watched in horror as a dark, writhing mass began to emerge from my throat. Tentacles, maggots, and things I couldn't even name spilled onto the table in front of me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body was no longer my own. As the abomination continued to pour from my mouth, I caught a glimpse of the chat out of the corner of my eye. A new message had appeared: "The show must go on." And I knew, with sickening certainty, that this nightmare was far from over. Whatever cosmic horror I had unwittingly unleashed was only just beginning its performance, and I was powerless to stop it. The tentacles writhed across the table, knocking over dishes and splattering the walls with unnatural fluids. I wanted to run, to hide, to do anything but sit there as this monstrosity used my body as a gateway. But I couldn't move. I was a puppet, and the strings were made of flesh and terror. Through the haze of fear and revulsion, I became aware of a sound. At first, I thought it was just the blood rushing in my ears, but as it grew louder, I realized it was coming from my computer speakers. It was laughter, hundreds, thousands of voices cackling in unison. My viewers were enjoying the show. Yes, the voice inside me purred, using my vocal cords in ways they were never meant to be used. Feed on their fear, their sick fascination. It makes us stronger. I felt my hand move, guided by an alien will. It reached for the nearest tentacle, grasping it firmly. To my horror, I realized what was about to happen a split second before it did. My arm jerked, bringing the squirming appendage to my mouth. I bit down, my teeth sinking into flesh that was somehow both my own and not. The taste was indescribable, wrought in sweetness, pain and ecstasy all at once. As I chewed and swallowed, I felt the thing inside me grow. It was learning, adapting, becoming more than the sum of its parts. And with each bite, I lost a little more of myself. "That's it," the voice crooned. "Embrace your role in the grand buffet of existence." Tears streamed down my face as I continued to consume the impossible flesh. The chat scrolled by in a blur of emojis and exclamations. They loved it. They wanted more. And the thing inside me was all too happy to oblige. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time lost all meaning as I sat there, trapped in an endless cycle of consumption and regurgitation. The room around me warped and twisted, reality bending under the weight of the cosmic wrongness I had become a conduit for. Eventually, I became aware of a new sensation. A pressure building behind my eyes, like something was trying to push its way out. I whimpered, knowing that whatever was coming would redefine horror yet again. As my eyes bulged, stretching in their sockets, I caught a final glimpse of the chat. Among the sea of excitement and terror, one message stood out: the veil is thinning. Soon, we will all feast together. My vision went dark as something burst forth from my eye sockets. I felt tendrils unfurling, reaching out towards the camera, towards my viewers, towards the world beyond. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was the voice, no longer just in my head but everywhere, speaking to an audience far larger than just my mukbang followers. Dinner is served. I drifted in and out of consciousness, my mind fragmented like shattered glass. Each time I surfaced, I caught glimpses of a world transformed. My room had become a pulsating, organic chamber. The walls breathed, and eyes, countless eyes, blinked from every surface. Where am I? I croaked, my voice barely recognizable. Everywhere and nowhere, the entity inside me answered. The boundaries between realms have dissolved. Your little broadcast was the key we needed. I tried to move, but my body felt wrong. Looking down, I saw that my limbs had elongated, twisting into tentacle-like appendages. My skin crawled with patterns that shifted and changed, forming intricate symbols before dissolving into chaos. What have you done to me? I whimpered. The creature laughed, the sound reverberating through my altered form. We've made you better. A perfect vessel for the coming feast. Suddenly, my computer screen flickered to life. But instead of my streaming software, I saw hundreds of faces, my viewers, but changed. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and their mouths were stretched into impossible grins. They're coming, the voice whispered. The guests are arriving. Terror gripped me as I realized the full scope of what was happening. My stream hadn't just been viewed by my regular audience. It had reached something else. Something ancient and hungry. The air in front of me shimmered, and a figure stepped through. It was one of my most dedicated viewers, a username I recognized. But the thing that stood before me was barely human. Its body was a writhing mass of tentacles and mouths, each one gnashing and drooling. Thank you for the invitation, it gurgled, reaching for me with a twisted limb. I tried to scream, but only a strangled whimper escaped. More figures were appearing now, materializing from thin air. Some looked vaguely human, while others defied description, masses of eyes and teeth, swirling vortexes of hunger given form. The veil between worlds has thinned, the voice inside me announced. Let the banquet commence. My body moved without my consent, arms, tentacles, whatever they were now, reaching out to embrace the monstrous guests. I felt my flesh tear and reform, offering itself as sustenance to these cosmic horrors. But even as they fed on me, I fed on them. With each bite, each exchange of impossible flesh, I felt myself growing, expanding, becoming something more than human, more than monster. Knowledge flooded my mind, the secrets of dead stars, the whispers of elder gods, the true nature of reality. It was maddening and exhilarating all at once. Through it all, my camera kept rolling. I could sense millions of eyes watching, drawn to the eldritch horror unfolding in what had once been my mundane streaming room. The borders of our reality were crumbling, and it was all being broadcast live. Yes, the voice purred. Let them see. Let them know that their world is nothing but an appetizer in the great cosmic feast. I wanted to warn them, to tell them to look away. But I couldn't. The words wouldn't come. Instead, I found myself speaking in a language that hurt the ear and mind, inviting them, enticing them to join us. As I chanted in that blasphemous tongue, I became aware of a new presence. Something vast and ancient, so incomprehensibly huge that even the monstrosities surrounding me cowered in its shadow. It spoke, and the universe trembled. The seal is broken. The way is open. We hunger. Reality itself seemed to tear open, revealing a void filled with writhing shapes and impossible geometries. The true horror had arrived, and we, my viewers, my monstrous guests, and what remained of me, were nothing but morsels to whet its appetite. I felt my consciousness expanding, merging with the cosmic entity that had taken root inside me. We were becoming one, a hybrid of human and horror, a bridge between worlds. As the eldritch god began to push its way through the rift, consuming everything in its path, I had one final moment of clarity. I saw the truth of what we had unleashed, the doom we had brought upon our world. With the last shred of my humanity, I reached for the keyboard. My twisted limbs moved faster than thought, typing out a final message to anyone who might still be watching. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Turn off your devices. Run. Hide. It's too late for me, but maybe, before I could finish, a tendril of pure darkness lashed out from the void, wrapping around my throat. I was pulled backward, towards the gaping maw of the cosmic horror. As I crossed the threshold between realities, I saw my message send. A futile gesture, perhaps, but it was all I could do. The last thing I heard before being consumed by the void was the sound of a notification. Someone had left a comment on my stream, best mukbang ever. Can't wait for the next one. If only they knew. If only they could comprehend the terror that was coming for them all. But it was too late. The feast had begun, and humanity was on the menu. As I was drawn deeper into the cosmic abyss, fragments of other realities flashed before my eyes. I saw worlds consumed, civilizations reduced to ash, entire galaxies devoured by the insatiable hunger of the elder gods. And yet, a part of me remained. Observing. Experiencing. Growing. I don't know how long I drifted in that liminal space between existence and oblivion. Time had no meaning here. I was everywhere and nowhere, part of the cosmic horror and yet separate from it. Slowly, agonizingly, I began to regain a sense of self. The voice that had taken control was still there, but it no longer dominated my thoughts. We had become something new, something unprecedented. I focused, trying to peer back into the world I had left behind. At first, all I could see was chaos, cities in ruin, the sky torn open, reality itself unraveling at the seams. But as I looked closer, I saw pockets of resistance. There were humans fighting back against the cosmic invasion. Not with weapons, but with symbols and rituals. They had taken the knowledge unwittingly broadcast through my stream and were using it to seal the rifts, to push back against the encroaching darkness. A spark of hope ignited within me. Perhaps all was not lost. Perhaps humanity had a chance. But even as I watched these brave souls battle against impossible odds, I felt the pull of the void. The elder gods were not finished with me yet. I had a role to play in this cosmic drama, whether I wanted it or not. With my newfound awareness, I began to understand the true nature of the horror we had unleashed. It wasn't just about consumption or destruction. It was about transformation. The elder gods sought to remake reality in their image, to create a universe of endless hunger and eternal feast. And I, in my hubris and ignorance, had given them the key they needed. As this realization washed over me, I made a decision. I couldn't undo what I had done, but perhaps I could influence what was to come. I focused all my will, all the eldritch knowledge I had gained, into a single thought: resistance. I pushed that thought out into the void, casting it like a lifeline to anyone who might be able to receive it. Somewhere in the multiverse, I hoped, someone would hear. Someone would understand. Someone would continue the fight. The effort drained me, and I felt myself slipping away again. The voice of the cosmic entity surged forward, amused by my futile gesture. "You think you can change the course of cosmic destiny?" it mocked. "You are nothing but a speck, a momentary aberration in the grand feast of existence." I wanted to argue, to assert my humanity, but I no longer had the strength. As consciousness faded, I caught one last glimpse of Earth. Among the devastation, I saw a figure standing atop a ruined building. They looked up, directly at me, as if they could see across the vast gulf of space and reality. They raised their hand, forming a symbol I somehow recognized, a ward against the elder gods. In that moment, I understood. The story wasn't over. The horror I had unleashed was just the beginning of a greater tale. A tale of cosmic terror and human perseverance, of elder gods and unlikely heroes. As I dissolved into the fabric of the void, becoming one with the endless hunger of the universe, a final thought echoed through my fading consciousness. The stream may have ended, but the broadcast continues. Somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of reality, someone is still watching. Still fighting. And maybe, just maybe, they'll find a way to turn off the cosmic horror show I so foolishly started. But until then, the feast goes on. The elder gods hunger. And the universe trembles in anticipation of the next course. In the endless void between realities, I wait. Watching. Hoping. Fearing. For I know now that every ending is just a new beginning. And in the realm of cosmic horror, the most terrifying stories are those that never truly end.